This next story is about gold watch, cancer, and dad. Um, like I say, my dad was tough, um, but he was extremely encouraging. He he and he would encourage me to be successful, but he was tough in other ways. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the gold watch. When I was a sophomore in high school, I played. I participated in football, wrestling, baseball for a short amount of time, and then in track. And I started lettering in athletic events. As a junior, I got 3 letters, and as a senior, I got 3 letters in football, wrestling, and track. But my dad told me that there was a special award called the Gold Watch Award, which was the most outstanding athletic award for the school that year. Now you get that as a senior. So somebody gets that prize or that award when you're a senior. So I got a letter in football, wrestling, and track my junior year. My senior year, so I have 3 letters. My senior year, I got a letter in football, wrestling, and then in track, because I had had cancer during my wrestling season, my senior year, in track, my arm had been cut from clear over here on the shoulder, clear over on the chest, and they had joined that meat back together, and then had to radiated it. So when I woke up after the operation, it was completely stuck over here. My muscle had to be pushed out by a physical therapist and ripped and torn out so that I could get that movement back. And I had horrible movement at that point, but I was pretty good at the discus and the shot put. Now, pretty good for me was good. There was a lot better kids out of Salt Lake, and some of the other kids in Ogden were better. But I played several times in wrestling events and in track events. But my dad said, if don't say anything to anybody else, if you will focus on getting your letters and being the best athlete you can be, you might be able to win the Gold Watch Award. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. So we never said anything to anybody. We kept it between ourselves. It was funny. Every time after I'd come home from after a football game, I had to sit in my dad's room on his bed while he sat on the toilet and read the paper, and he would talk to me about sports and how I did in the football game and what I needed to improve upon. Every night after a football game, hey, come here, I need to talk to you. I had to sit on the bed while he was going to the bathroom, face to face, and talk to him, and he would tell me about what I did, good and bad, in the football game. And then, of course, he would encourage me to work towards winning the award, the Gold Watch Award. Well, when I was a senior during the wrestling season, I had cancer operations, and man, it was looking kind of dim, like I wouldn't be able to get the Gold Watch Award. But I always had a really good attitude with my coaches. I always did what they told me. I was always respectful. I worked as hard as I could. I tried as hard as I could. I was not a great athlete. I was a good athlete. And I was better than fair, but I was only good. But I had more heart than I had talent. But I still worked hard, and I was very respectful with my coaches. So, after my 3rd cancer operation, I got my toes cut off on a motorcycle accident when I was out dirt biking. So I had not only a shoulder that had scars and stitches in them, but I also had my toes cut off, and I was gimping around school. In fact, they used to call me Kunta Kinte Piccolo. Kunta Kinte was the black guy in Roots that got his foot cut off for escaping, and Brian Piccolo was the guy who had cancer, the story called Brian's Song. So they nicknamed me Kunta Piccolo. And anyway, so bad foot, cut off toes, sore arm, not very much movement in my arm, but I was going to go out, and my dad says, if you'll letter, you can probably get the Gold Watch Award. I'm like, well, okay. So I started going out with a softball, not a shot put. I started going out with a softball, and I would a softball with. So my arms cut with cancer, third cancer operation. My toes are cut off, and I go out, and my dad says, if you'll get up early in the morning and go over to Weber High and practice your technique with the shot put. You can't really walk on your foot very good. You can't throw very good here. You can't really push a shot put. You might be able to get the Gold Watch Award. So every morning, really early, I'd go over to the Weber at 7 o'clock with the shot put, with my toes cut off and healing, and I would push the shot put, or not the shot put, but the softball. And I just worked on technique. I went up and worked with Chick Hislop at Weber State, and he would teach me how to throw the shot put, and another guy who was an Olympic discus champion. I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, he showed us how to throw the discus. But I'd go up there and I'd practice and practice and practice. So I just worked on technique is all. I couldn't work with weight. And my coaches just thought, there's no way this kid's going to be able to throw the shot put and do anything. They just kind of laugh like, what's this guy doing? He's got his toes cut off. His shoulder is opened up with cancer. He doesn't have very much movement, but he's going to throw the shot put and the discus. And I don't know, my dad was like, yeah, that's what you're going to do. My dad, when I got my cancer operations, he was so encouraging. I mean, he was tough as hell sometimes, but he was encouraging as hell sometimes. He would just say, oh, you had your cancer operation. Well, the doctor says you should be able to be wrestling by the end of the week. Okay. I was wrestling with stitches in my arm and stuff like that. Well, anyway, so I go up there and I practice, and then the season begins. Now, this is just after wrestling. The season begins. At first, I'm having a hard time throwing the shot put. And the coaches, in their own minds, they told me afterwards, they're like, there's no way this kid's going to be successful at the shot put and the discus. But my dad said I would, and I said I could. And if I would try hard, maybe I might still be able to get the Gold Watch Award. So anyway, I didn't do very good in the discus. I think I couldn't throw it as far as those other guys anyway. But I did throw it. I think it maybe placed. I don't even know if I placed, but whatever, regardless. But in the shot put, I had thrown the shot put for many years in ninth grade, in a high school situation, and had placed several times, both in first, second, third places. But when you get against some of the guys in Salt Lake, those guys are monsters, man. They could throw things all over the place. But anyway, I started to peak, but I was going through radiation therapy cancer therapy with radiation done at the LDS hospital. I was getting radiation treatments, and I was sort of sick, and my had gotten burned underneath my arm. But I went out and I threw the shot put, and I got to the point where I could throw the shot put, and because I worked on technique and my strength was getting better, I threw the shot put further than I have ever thrown the shot put at my region tournament. I think I placed 4th or 5th, which qualified me for state, which gave me a letter. So therefore now I have 6 letters, and all the kids at school are thinking all these different kids are going to get the gold watch, and they didn't even have an idea. And I never said anything to them. They never had an idea that I had 6 letters. They were all talking about these other kids who had 4 or 5 letters, etc., etc. They didn't even calculate that I had 6 letters, and they were all really surprised that I had 6 letters. And then when they announced the Gold Watch Award winner at Weber High, I was up in the top. And when they announced it, because everyone knew that I had had several cancer operations, been through cancer therapy, and also my toes had been cut off, but that I had done okay in sports. But when they announced that I was the winner of the Gold Watch Award, everyone in the school gave me a standing ovation as I walked down to pick up the Gold Watch Award. It's a gold watch from Standard Examiner. It's a newspaper in the neighborhood, in the area. And I got that Gold Watch Award, and it felt really good because the kids gave me a standing ovation. Not because I was a good athlete, but because I tried hard and I overcame some things because of the help from my coaches and other people, but primarily from my dad's encouragement. So even though my dad had some difficulties, he was very encouraging, and I got the Gold Watch Award for him and because of him, because he encouraged me, and he was a great encourager. So I learned a lot about the struggle of the feeling of mortality, having cancer, of getting the Gold Watch Award, and having a dad who encouraged me. My dad was an extreme encourager, but he was also very fiery in other ways. But that's my story about the Gold Watch Award.